Okay. Should have a tool for that. I suppose I can put that. Great, you don't want to go in there. That's going to be a bit. Alrighty. Alright, I'm still trying to get this bottom bracket apart here, so I have to dig into my box of tools to try and find something that'll work. I might have to treat it with some WD. And then I'm not exactly sure which direction these are going to turn, so I don't want to fucking screw it up. I got a feeling replacement parts are going to be expensive. I'm going to try and get rid of some of this dust and crap first, and then we'll go through with some alcohol and clean off the grease. Ugh. Go ahead and see how alcohol and a paper towel will work here for the cranks. Maybe we could just clean them up pretty quickly that way. Oh yeah, that works nice. You can see the difference here. I'm thinking about just taking the rings off and then putting them back on when everything is clean. Ouch. Hitting your knuckles never gets old. It's always equally as pleasurable. Yeah. And even the bolts say Campagnolo. I gotta make sure I don't lose any of this shit. And I have a magnetic tray here with all the bits in there so that way they don't fall out. Okay. All right, those are the backs. That's the front. Just trying to put the hardware together so I'm not wondering what goes with what. Because chances are, even after I have this apart, it won't be back together for a minute, so. And there should be one more. All right. Well, that's cleaning up pretty nice. Okay. Windy season here in the spring. All right, yeah, that looks nice. It looks really like there's not any wear on this thing at all. I mean, it literally looks like it's never been ridden. Yeah, you can see on this one's got a little bit different. Some of the teeth have been broken off. I'm not sure how that happened, but I can feel the burrs, so it feels like this was maybe drug on the ground or something. I can see here how they're wore off. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, how these three here are ground down. So I might actually have to take the burrs off of those to keep the chain from catching. Okay, I want to just deburr these broken teeth here because there's some burrs I can feel on the other ends. Fucking hell. Amazon delivery truck, so. Okay, so I picked this up to clean the vintage leather seat. It's really dry, and I want to make sure that we can save it. So this was one of the better reviewed leather conditioner online. I picked this up as well to clean the aluminum and to polish it, and I'm going to give it a go right now on these chain rings and the cranks. Now that I have them clean, we'll go ahead and see how that looks. Alright, so here's the stuff mostly cleaned, and you can see it cleaned up pretty nicely. Alright, I'm going to get these forks off so I can work on them and get the rust off. First I'm going to pull these bars though. So it's been a few weeks since I've actually been working on this bike, and I had a couple of issues. Well, actually just the one issue. Well, I suppose if we include the forks, that would be a couple. But I was having a problem getting off this lock washer, bolt, whatever the fuck it is. So I had this original tool, which usually works, but I couldn't get a good enough bite on it to get it. So I bought another one off of Amazon, and that one as well, I couldn't get it to do it. It was just on there too tight. So after about 4 soakings and a week or two of sitting and waiting for it to get looser, I was just about ready to use heat on it, but I decided to go medieval. I wedged this into one of the holes and used a hammer to whack it forward. So that's not ideal, especially on this older stuff. Not sure if we can get a replacement for it because it is Campagnolo, but it is loose now, and I can service the bottom bracket now, which is what I was trying to do. I also have a bolt on top of the head tube here. This one that I'm having trouble with as well. So I'm going to go ahead and service the bottom bracket, and I'll move on to that after this is over. Yeah, so anyway, now I have these tools that, I don't know, I won't be using very much, but hopefully on the next job they'll be more useful. Okay. And that loosens to the left. So it's my understanding that both sides are the same. And I have some burrs here that I created with a screwdriver that I was using before I tried this other piece. So I think I'm going to go through and try and file those down a little bit so they don't stick out. Just trying to remove the burrs here. Trust me, I don't like having to get all crazy on this older stuff, so it's hard enough to bring it back to operating condition, let alone have to break shit to get it apart. So, but I really don't have a lot of tools for this older stuff. Most of the stuff I work on isn't this old, so I kind of had to guess what I would need. The Centurion that I did not too long ago also had a bottom bracket that was like this, but I didn't have that kind of issue with it. It was a newer bike, so it was made in the 80s, and I believe this one is probably from the 70s. That's just my guess, just by looking at the group set that we took off. And I have polished, and the group set is ready to go back on as soon as I can service all of these bearings here. And even though the forks kind of spin, I'm spinning them now, you can see them, but even though the forks spin a little bit, I would still like to get in there and service those bearings. You know, adding new grease also prevents the ingress of water, which is important, especially in these older bikes that are made of steel. You don't want rust. Rust is not your friend in this situation, or any situation, I suppose. And I am going to make a quick little mark on this bottom bracket square taper thingy, so I know what size what. I'm not sure if the sides are different in size, but I want to make sure it goes back in the exact way that I take it out. So, and we're about ready here for summer, so I'd like to get this done before the heat hits, so I don't have to be out here in the heat. That is definitely not fun. And as I found out last summer, possibly deadly. I had ridden too far with not enough shade, and I literally thought I was going to die. It was an 80-mile ride, and I believe it got up to almost 120 that day. But that was probably the closest I've ever been to calling for a bailout, having somebody come pick me up. And I've done a lot of ugly rides, and that was the only time where I was pretty much ready to throw in the towel. But I decided not to and pushed through it, and you know, I eventually came out, but it took me days to recover from that. So, moral of the story is don't fuck with heat. Okay, now I do have this tool already, which is how we remove this other piece here. So hopefully this shit isn't fucking packed in there like the other thing, and it isn't good. Alright, and I was gonna mark it. And this project's taking longer than I thought it would. I still have to do the rim bearings, and it turns out those tubular tires are actually holding air still, so I'm not sure if I'm going to replace them. They still look okay, besides the sides looking like shit a little bit. But I do have another set of rims that I'm going to offer with the sale of this. I'm not sure if they can be converted to an axle or a free hub to accept an older cassette like this one. But I don't know anybody who uses tubular, and I think it's going to make it hard when I try to flip this bike for a profit if they have to remain tubular. So I would really like to eliminate that. Okay. Like I said, I just want to make sure that I have the side right. And this tool, it just has these two little pegs here, and it's got that little arm, so it's sizable. It came with a kit of older tools that I picked up just to do these older bikes. And I'm just going to use alcohol like I use in normal situations. What is this? Just regular sopal alcohol. And I'm just going to wipe them clean. I'm not sure if it's supposed to feel sharp like that, but these little edges feel really sharp. I've never worked on Campagnolo before, and I'm almost positive. Where's that bot? I don't know if I can get it in there where you guys could see it. It says Campagnolo. I'm not sure what the other stuff says. 1.370 by 24 TPI, whatever that means. Made in Italy. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to get this thing back together and finally give it off to its forever home. Okay. And you can tell that WD was in there. This stuff is gross. But I had to soak it numerous times. Like I said, I was ready to get a MAP gas torch so I could freaking heat it out of there. But thankfully I was able to tap it open. But I've been treating it with WD-40 probably for a week or two. So, you know, it didn't come out easy, that's for sure. Okay. I'm trying to be careful not to knock off this marker, because the way to remove permanent marker is alcohol. Permanent marker is alcohol based, so I'm trying not to mark rub off the mark that I put on there. Wish this had a date on it so we could kind of date the bike, but I honestly don't see one. Although I can't see really good up close. I'm starting to get old and my eyesight is not very good. Oh, here, now that I've cleaned it, it does look like a Campagnolo logo. I don't know if you guys can see it. Anyway. And I'm pretty sure I could probably get a sealed bearing bottom bracket that will fit this. But considering everything on here is made in Italy and is original Campagnolo, I want to keep it that way. So that's my reasoning for not replacing it. Okay, here's this little sleeve plastic thingy. I don't know what you call it. Anyone know what this is called? Plastic thing? That's what we're going with, plastic thing. I'm just trying to get all the old stuff out of here. And the WD-40, because the WD-40 is good for loosening stuff, but it's also good for removing grease and grime as well. So really don't want a lot of that remaining in there once I re-grease this thing. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want the grease out of the inside. No one's really going to see this bit anyway. And yeah, you can definitely see here. Wipe my hands off. You guys can see it, but that's the inside. So I'm going to try and get a rag through that other end and wipe everything out. I try to keep my workplace as clean as possible, but it doesn't always turn out that way. And you can see in here, well maybe you can't, but it does look like there was some rust in these threads, so I'm going to try and wipe that out as well. Hopefully we don't have the same issue again as the next person. Yeah, but that thing was definitely a bitch to get off. I'm glad it's off. I'm glad I don't have to deal with it anymore, but I know I have the rims and the headset bearings to do as well. So, you know, there's plenty of other opportunities for me to not have fun doing it. So, I guess I can't say not fun, but sometimes it's aggravating when you can't really get things to work the way they're supposed to. Anyway, I'm rambling. So let's re-grease this and put it back together. So there's two sides on these too. So you have this side here, and then this concave side. It's kind of got a curve to it. So that's the side that faces out, and then this side runs on the axle. So I've actually never seen that like that before. Usually it's symmetrical. So I'm assuming that's a... oh yeah, these little bearings even say Campagnolo. I'm very positive you won't be able to see it, but it does say Campagnolo right there. And I believe, and you guys can hit me in the comments if it's not true, but I believe Campagnolo was one of the very first derailleurs made. So I'm pretty sure the Campagnolo family has been doing bikes since, I don't know, maybe 100 years or so. Again, I'm sure I'm probably not right on that. And feel free to correct me, those of you who live on the other side of the pond. But, yeah. Okay. All right, so I don't know if you guys can see, but I scribed an L on there so that I know what side is what, because sometimes one is longer than the other. This one doesn't look to be that way, but it's just a good idea. That way you know how everything's supposed to go back together. And as we discussed before, this is one of the very few Park Tool things that I own. Some of the best grease there is. Okay. I'm probably going to have to go in from this other side here. And I'm being very liberal with it because I can't really get that other side out. So I want to make sure that all the surfaces are covered really well. And I'll wipe off whatever squirts out. But it's just a good thing to have more than less, especially if you're riding somewhere in a wet climate where you're going to have to deal with water getting in there. Okay, so... getting some on the threads here. That way, next owner, because on these type of bottom brackets, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to service them once a season. Which, if you do, it's not really hard to take it apart. So, but when it's spent 30 years together, it doesn't really want to come apart too nicely. So, just a heads up on that. Now, I'm going to preload the bearing tension here with this bearing cup. And you want it snug, but not super tight. The lock ring will hold it on. Yeah, this is going to be a survivor too. I'm just going to wash and wax this frame. And I'm going to try and remove some of the rust off of the forks there. I have a couple remedies we're going to try when we get that far, but it'll be a minute before we get there. So I'll probably do this in 2 parts. That last video that I released, that's an hour long. I don't really think people want to watch an hour worth of me doing work, but people have, so thank you. Okay. I would apologize for my swearing, but to me it's normal language, you know? Everyone swears. Well, maybe not everyone. There are some Ned Flandery people that probably don't, but normal people are used to that kind of language, and you know what? I'm a normal person, so that's how I fucking talk. But I suppose if we ever get sponsorship or, you know, bigger things happen with this channel than I would probably have to sacrifice my belief there in order to be mainstream, which, you know, that would be cool, but it's not really my goal here. My goal is just to show that it's not that hard to work on this stuff, unless it's, you know, frozen by rust, but you can do these things yourself. Like I said, it's not really a how-to channel as much as it's an example of how, you know, things can be done in your garage. So, and I hope that I've proved that